The Golden Lake by Lyssa Royal Holt. Wisdom from the Stars for Life on Earth, from the author of the classic book, The Prism of Lyra. Preface. The year of publication of this book, 2019, marks the 30th anniversary of the first edition of our classic book, The Prism of Lyra, published in 1989. That book was the first of its kind to explore human galactic heritage and the evolution of our star family from a galactic perspective. The groundbreaking Galactic Heritage cards, first published in English in 2013, gives seekers a tool to delve more deeply into their personal star heritage using the material explored in the Prism of Lyra. As I channeled the material for the Galactic Heritage cards, one thing became very clear. Our star family went through evolutionary challenges similar to what we face on Earth today. All species have a signature challenge, and the healing of that unique challenge shaped who they became as they evolved. Through channeling, and in some cases direct contact, our galactic family are now sharing even deeper information about their past roads to healing. These lessons are profound and infinitely valuable to help us on Earth as we face the challenges that await our species. Being on the brink of either self-destruction or awakening, we can all use the help we can accept. This book is a compilation of some of the deepest channel material that has come through to my groups in the United States and Japan in the past few years. All of it is designed to help us navigate the challenges we face by presenting a roadmap to move through this intense process. Many tools are presented here for readers who wish to delve deeply into their consciousness and actively work with the inner healing and awakening process. Readers will also learn a great deal about galactic history. This book introduces the School of the Nine Serpents, an ancient mystery school that originated in our Vagan lineage. The teachings of this school have been given on many planets throughout time and adapted by extraterrestrial mentors in appropriate ways for each planet. The School of the Nine Serpents has two components, feminine teaching and masculine teaching. This does not refer to gender, but to the style of the teaching. The feminine aspect of the School of the Nine Serpents comes from ancient Pleiadian teachings given by Sasha. Sasha is a female Pleiadian who had been channeling through me since 1988. And has transmitted material for many of our previous books. This material includes the Golden Lake teaching discussed in this book. As they become familiar with these teachings, you will understand why they are part of a feminine heritage of teaching and why feminine energy is of utmost importance in this phase of human evolution. Feminine teaching must also be balanced by masculine teaching. The masculine teaching of the School of the Nine Serpents are primarily given by the Syrian ambassador, Hamon, who began communicating through me in 2013. These teachings are masculine in nature because they give us tools we can actively work with as we navigate our healing and awakening process. The result of using these tools is profound mental and emotional transformation. As you will see, these tools are for the purpose of facilitating inner integration. The Syrian teachings are particularly intense, for in order to transform and awaken their species, they had to do very deep inner work. Your personal healing and awakening. As in our previous books, Germain, a multidimensional group conscious system, provided material relating to our galactic history. Germain shares information specifically about the planet Mars and its pivotal role in our solar system. This information was transmitted by Germain as a way to offer a broader perspective on the evolution of our galactic family. The first 4 chapters were originally dictated by Sasha for a book published in Japan titled Ogan no Shizuku, or One Golden Drop. The insightful questions in those 4 chapters were asked by the president of the Japanese company for whom I worked since 1990. The remaining chapters are excerpted from channel sessions and retreats during which the School of the Nine Serpents and the Golden Lake teachings were explored in depth. My sense is that these teachings are just the tip of a very large iceberg. Much more will be coming in the future. For now, I hope you will use this powerful information for your growth as I have. The tools have been invaluable in helping me navigate what can seem a very shaky world these days. As we do this inner work, we ignite the light within us and learn how to navigate the unfamiliar terrain that was once unseen to us. This in turn helps others along the road. Gaining confidence about the future can come from understanding our personal past, as well as the past of our celestial ancestors. It is my sincerest wish that these transmissions assist you on your unique road of healing and awakening. Part 1. The Beginning of the Journey. The Lyran Path of Awakening. Sasha. Welcome, readers. Over several decades now, we have presented information about your galactic family through workshops, videos, and audio recordings. and most notably the book The Prism of Lyra and the Galactic Heritage cards. We have found that profound understanding very often comes through your questions, which inspires us to go deeper to provide you with the material to assist you on Earth. Much of the Golden Lake began as a book project in Japan, and we have added information from workshops to enhance what we channeled in Tokyo. This book contains images from the Galactic Heritage cards and graphics here and there to aid your understanding. What we share represents some of the deepest teachings we have offered thus far in your world. Through lectures, exercise, and answers to your questions, we will take you on a journey into yourselves, into the very essence of your consciousness, so buckle up. Expression of masculine energy. We are honored to be here today and happy to serve. Where would you like to begin? Let's begin by exploring the archetypal energies of the main star system connected to Earth. Would you please discuss the main star archetypes and the upside and downside of their energies, and especially how they relate to life on Earth? Let us begin in the most ancient times with the Lyran archetype. But before we do, we need to give you a starting point to help you see the bigger picture, because we will share so much information with you. Please know that we often use metaphors to describe complex concepts humans often struggle with. The starting point must always be the one consciousness you all are. Think of it like a golden lake that permeates all creation. In fact, the golden lake is creation itself. Everything comes from the golden lake. Within the golden lake, a fragmentation of sorts began to happen, and archetypes emerged. Your star family and even you demonstrate these archetypes. They represent all the main themes the consciousness of the golden lake needed to explore. Once this fragmentation happened, polarity was born. The golden lake could then experience the paradoxical states of oneness and fragmentation simultaneously. This is the nature of human consciousness as well. For the lake to experience fragmentation, it had to display certain characteristics to help it exist within this separated state. The act of fragmentation is masculine, and thus the first archetype reflects that masculine energy. This is the archetype of Lyra. The masculine archetype of early Lyrans needed certain qualities to survive and grow the species. In that way, these masculine traits could be considered an upside. For instance, one of the strongest Lyran archetypal qualities is fearlessness and the strength to explore the unknown. You can say that they were very solar plexus driven because of that strong will. But of course a strong will was also a downside. If you look at the archetypal qualities of the warrior, such as courageousness, fearlessness, a great sense of duty, and an almost blind focus on moving forward, you can see the downside. Lyrans were plagued by the arrogance and pushiness inherent in a young species. Thus, in order to evolve as a species, they had to marry their strong masculine energy with temperance. That was their biggest challenge in their awakening process. If you look at humans now, you have a strong connection to that Lyran archetype. Throughout history, you have wonderful stories of noble warriors and pioneers who go into the wilderness and do great things. Those are Lyran's strength. Looking at how the Lyran species matured and had to learn temperance and cool down their hot ego, so to speak, shows an area where humanity needs to grow as well. Is it true that Lyran temperaments are different and that the Lyran evolutionary process was similar to the human one? What did they need to achieve their evolution? Yes, there were many Lyran temperaments, especially because the early Lyran civilization spread far and wide into areas known in your mythology as Polaris, Ursa Major, Cygnus, and other constellations. The Lyran evolutionary process is indeed similar to yours. They needed to learn to create balance between their inner male and female energies. Of course, we do not mean gender, we mean the balance between doing oriented with the solar plexus and the compulsion to push in order to create, and being an expression of the feminine and related to relaxing, letting go, and moving with universal flow. They got to the point in their development similar to where humans are now, where they discovered they could not push anymore. Pushing became painful and self-sabotaging, and they began to see that. For instance, people on Earth try to manifest their reality, but they make the effort in a masculine way, and they just get frustrated. One of the biggest changes the Lyrans had to embrace, which felt very counterintuitive to them, was to let go and let male and female energies marry within them, and humans are experiencing this same crucial shift. It took the Lyrans a very long time to evolve because they didn't have other species to serve as a reflection. They had to get to a point of much pain which forced them to look inside. When humans are in a lot of pain, you do anything to commit to change, but you often go back to old ways when the pain passes. Once the Lyrans got to that point of unending pain, they knew it was a signal that the species needed to shift. Their key was looking within, using intense process of self-observation. Physically, did the Lyrans have gender? If so, was a dynamic like relationship in Japan, where the husband is usually arrogant and very outgoing, and the wife balances that energy? Your physical bodies are modeled after theirs, but some Lyran species you would have called giants. They were generally larger than humans. Regarding gender differences, because they were so heavily focused in masculine energy, especially in the very early era, men tended to be physically stronger, and the gender roles were very divided. Later in their development, women were also fierce and strong. That is part of your archetypal memory. The Lyran path to awakening. For humans, what would be some tips for effective self-observation? A really important key for humanity right now is to observe the emotional body. This is because most humans push down emotions, a tendency that comes from other members of your galactic family. Humans experience emotional pressure in the unconscious from all the repressed emotions you have pushed down for generations. The unconscious continues to repress these emotions as a protection mechanism from emotional pain. But that emotional energy has to come out somewhere, and it very often does so as disease or mental illness. If we were to say what the most important thing is for humans right now, it is to start reconnecting your severed ties to the emotional body and learn to experience emotions in a fluid way. This is necessary to move in the next step of human evolution. Self-observation means watching from a place of non-judgment and allowance. Your behavior patterns, thoughts, and emotions that arise on a daily basis. Seeing and owning your destructive behavior pattern is the first step toward freeing yourself from the obstacle that sabotages your happiness and peace of mind. You begin to see where your compulsion to judge others originates. You see traits in others that you fear in yourself. After observation, it becomes easier to make new choices in life. Self-observation also leads to self-forgiveness, an essential part of the equation. How do you learn to do this inner work? We have created a navigational map of sorts to help with this process. This map begins with your original state, the golden lake of oneness. The part of you that's separated from the lake, the golden drop, is a component we call an anchor that keeps you focused here in separated reality. You call this anchor the ego. The ego has a neutral function that is meant, in a sense, to pull out of the lake and ground you here to have a human experience. The ego's original job was to be a processor of human experience for the Golden Lake, the One, but its role later became primarily one of protection. When you are separate and have a painful experience in third density, it is the ego's job to protect you from feeling that. Sometimes the ego takes its job too seriously. Following is a map we created, Sasha's pyramid layer of experience, to help you navigate out of suffering and back into a neutral state of emotional experience. This was the first navigational map your Lyran ancestors used to awaken. Please follow along as we examine it from top to bottom. The capstone of the pyramid is labeled True Self and refers to the state of oneness or the Golden Lake. There is no duality or conflict. There is no movement. Everything is balanced and at rest. This is your natural original state of consciousness. When fragmentation starts, you begin to experience raw stimulation. This is the first layer under True Self. You experience stimulation that is inherently neutral. Even though duality has started, it is still neutral energy. From raw experience arises raw emotion. The next layer of the pyramid, you see a sunset, for example, which is a stimulus. The sunset is neither good nor bad, but its beauty triggers an emotional response. The response is often a mixture of appreciation, love, and gratitude. But the response is still neutral, because no story is attached. You do not look at the sky and think, man is polluting the sky. You are simply in the emotion and the moment of the beauty of the sunset. Those two layers are your natural states before the egoic anchor begins reinforcing polarity. What we call an ego gate is where the ego begins to separate its experience into preference. At this point, the stories start. We label this the ego filter on the diagram because it creates preferences such as, I don't like clouds, I only like orange sunsets and clear skies. Categorization comes in. pink sunsets are different from orange sunsets. This is followed by judgment. Pink sunsets are bad because they're caused by chemtrails. That is how the ego filters reality, and you are no longer at peace. Following the ego filter comes the building of the belief system, the next level. The ego generates really creative belief systems. Belief systems are interesting because they can be conscious or unconscious. A conscious belief might be, well, I believe I deserve an orange sunset because I did something good this morning. Unconscious belief systems are both stronger and harder to notice, and they often contradict the conscious ones, which can create confusion and suffering. Belief systems cause further fragmentation. Let's use a human belief system to make the example more tangible. Let's say your father was very abusive when you were young, and you learn that love equals punishment. That belief system goes deep. The next level of the pyramid is illusory experience, where your belief system, that love equals punishment, for example, create a state of paranoia. You believe that everyone wants to punish you or push you down, so you walk through life seen only through the filters that come from your belief system. Can you see how we're getting further away from the non-dual experience of true reality? From illusionary experience, we move on the diagram to illusionary emotional reaction. Let's say the person with the abusive father is named Sachiko. I might say to Sachiko in a neutral or loving way, "That is a lovely sweater you are wearing today." Because of her belief system, Sachiko hears the comment through her filters and unconsciously hears, "The sweater I am wearing is lovely because the one I wore yesterday was ugly." You might laugh at the distortion, but this circuitry runs through many people. You can try to give Sachiko love, but if her original programming says love equals punishment, she will never accept love. She will only perceive punishment because that is the only thing she's ever known. You can see how this kind of programming can take you deeper and deeper into illusion, which only results in pain. The final level is suffering. Suffering is discussed a lot in Buddhism. Some say life is suffering. In some ways, if you allow this unconscious fragmentation process to perpetuate in your psyche, then life indeed does become suffering. You have the ability to navigate yourself out of the state of suffering. With awareness and self-observation, you can move backward through the layers. It takes practice and a lot of self-honesty to do so. For example, if Sachiko is suffering, she thinks a lot about the comment about her sweater. Maybe she replays it in her head, or maybe she is not conscious of it but just feels badly and doesn't know why. If she can identify the reason for her suffering, she can navigate backward, so that it is an illusionary emotional reaction, and ask herself where it came from. With further self-inquiry and observation, she can navigate backward again to see where the illusionary feelings came from. She will see that they came from the comment made about her sweater. Then she can keep navigating backward to find out why it bothered her so much. As you move backward on this pyramid, the belief system layer is the hardest to work through because the layers are disguised. Many people do a lot of work in this layer in meditation. As we have said, sometimes you have conscious belief systems that are easier to identify. The unconscious ones are harder to identify because you have to listen to learn to the whisper. They are like little gas bubbles. When you are quiet, like when you meditate or enjoy a sunset, a thought bubble might say, "You shouldn't be watching the sunset, you should be working. You don't deserve peace until your work is done." These discoveries are like gold. Cherish them because they are the keys that unlock you to move backward through the layers. They are the keys to your freedom. If you move backward through the layers, you eventually move into the ego filter level, where feelings are based on preferences, judgment, or categorization. Then there's another gate. For some, this gate is the hardest to move through because in order to move backward through the layers, which leads to a state of non-duality, you have to let go of the ego's addiction to categorize, judge, and prefer. This is an area of intense spiritual training, and many of your galactic ancestors had to do this training on their path to awakening. In Japan, monks and Zen monasteries train to purge attachment. That training helps them to move through this gate. As many of your ancestors learned, too much spiritual discipline just creates more suffering. So middle road is important. Attachment isn't really the problem. Self-judgment is the problem because it empowers the anchor. As you become aware of this process and learn to navigate the layers, you will find yourself spending longer periods resting in a state of non-duality. That doesn't mean you walk around like a zombie. That is one of the stories the ego will tell you in order to keep you in fear of letting go of judgment. Once you get past that egoic gate, you move into a spectrum of reintegration on your way to merging with the lake once again. Question. So at the top of the pyramid we experience neutral emotion. Did the Lyrans have the same emotional experience? Yes, the experience of neutral emotion, which is a completely different spectrum of experience, is what awaits you as you evolve. It is not an absence of emotion. In fact, it is deep emotion but without the stories attached that lead to suffering. Your Lyran galactic family took a long time to awaken, but they eventually followed this navigational map through self-observation. We present it here because this map is familiar to you on a deep level through the experience of your Lyran galactic family. We will now talk more about these awakening processes as we move through this book. Now let's look at your Vegan galactic family. End of chapter.